Hi, welcome back to Centre For Entrepreneurship's YouTube channel. I'm Aditi Tibrewal, a final year entrepreneurship student at Ashoka University. I'm very excited to bring to you a series of interviews with the entrepreneurs from Shark Tank India Season 1. And in today's episode, we have Dilip Ramesh, who is the co-founder of Thinkerbell Labs and also one of the star participants of Shark Tank India Season 1, who managed to get 3 investors on board. So without further ado, I welcome you, Dilip.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
For anyone who might not know, could you please tell us in brief what Thinkerbell Lab does?
Sure. Yeah. So Thinkerbell Labs is a startup in the edtech domain. Our vision is to make education more inclusive. Our flagship product is Annie. It's the world's most comprehensive braille literacy device. Annie is named after Anne Sullivan, who was Helen Keller's teacher. So in the visually impaired community, when you say Anne Sullivan, they immediately think of a teacher. So Annie will teach you how to read, write, and type in braille, which are the essential skills for literacy. And what we are going after is braille literacy because the braille literacy rates across the globe are very, very low. And there isn't a lot of tech or advancement in any sort of learning methodology in the last 3-4 decades to try and improve this. And that is where we are getting at.
That sounds really interesting. So how did you pick the name Thinkerbell Labs?
we have a very elaborate naming process when we come up with any name. So the entire company gets involved. We have a brainstorming session, and then there's a lot of debate on the options. Then we start rolling them out, shortlisting, and then finally there's a vote for it. Thinkerbell Labs, when we came up with it, it was just the 4 of us. I don't exactly remember how we came up with it, but I think we were trying to embody 2 things. One is that there's a lot of thought going into what we're doing and why we're doing it, and the second aspect was innovation. So Bell Labs is something we all look up to, right? That's quite known for innovation and having changed the face of the world. So something sort of named, put together both of those, and we came up with it. There isn't a lot of science behind it.
Yeah, so from what I know, it was supposed to be like a research project back in college. So when did you know that you want to go bigger than like a research project in school, like in college?
I think it was the couple of things which sort of led us to doing this. One aspect is that the idea we were working on itself had a lot of credit to it, right? So we could see it had a lot of scope, it had a lot of impact that it could generate. And the second one is the kind of mind space that we were in, where we were very keen on trying to use our tech skills and our entrepreneurship inclination to something that where we can see an immediate impact, something where we can be proud of what we're doing with our skills. I mean, that way, if you look at it, every company is delivering impact in the world. So it's easy to say only my company is delivering impact. That's not true. Everybody that has an impact, but we picked something where we could see the impact of our work ourselves, and it was very evident. I think that is what we went with. So both of these aspects coming together was what led to us choosing not to do anything else and then continue with this project post our graduation.
I see. Also, for a lot of people, it's really difficult to do the first, like for most people. So how did you get your first customer or like first investors? What's the story behind that?
So first investor was actually a great story. So we were still in college, and we had this competition we applied to called the Great Tech Rocket Ship Awards. It was arranged by the Department of International Trade, UK government. We applied for it, we got through it, we won an award by them. And then a few weeks later, they called us and said, hey, there's an event that we're hosting in Mumbai a couple of weeks from now, and there's a BVIP coming in. So would you be interested in displaying your product there? So we had a very rough prototype. It was a very crude looking device that we had sort of hacked together. And we were like, sure, okay. So they called us in to just look at the device and to figure out what sort of demo we would give and all that. And then we went there, they looked at it, they said, this is all great, but I'm sure you're not going to be showing this prototype and you'll have a better looking device for the event. And the event was about 10, 12 days away. And we were like, yeah, of course, obviously. And we had no clue. So we came back, literally in 10 days, we designed a new version, which was better looking. We worked with an industrial designer who we had found through some other connects, and that person helped us overnight sat together. We had like sleepless nights for a week, and then we came up with this. And turns out the event had the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge who had come down there, Kate and William, and they learned how to type their son's name George in Braille on the device. And at the same event, Mr. Anand Mahindra was also there. So there was a pitch event after this, after the demo, and Sanskriti went on stage and pitched. It was a 60-second pitch, and at the end of it, Anand Mahindra was like, "If you're raising funds, I would like to participate in this." And I mean, it came out of nowhere for us. We were super excited, and once he said that, a lot of other people also jumped in. We had IAN and a couple of others who were interested as well. But then we did not even have a company. So we graduated, we opened a company, got back in touch with his team, and then the investment came. So that was the story of our first investment. It was through Indian Angel Network and Anand Mahindra. First customer was also a very interesting story. So Sanskriti was at a business plan event. Yeah, I think it was in Kolkata, if I'm not wrong. She was pitching there, and one of the guests at that event and also on the jury was the planning commissioner of Jharkhand, principal commissioner of Jharkhand. So he was there. He heard the pitch and he said, "Okay, you're saying this will impact lives of blind children. There's a blind school in Ranchi in Jharkhand. Why don't we give it a go there?" So we're like, "Okay, great." So then the conversation started from there. It went through all the processes that the government procurement has, and then our first commercial project was in Ranchi, a blind school in Ranchi. So yeah, it was again we weren't really looking at these channels to begin with. We're trying to look at more of the CSR philanthropy angles, and then we realized government is a huge stakeholder in this. So even now, about 60-70% of our customers are government agencies.
So from your journey, I could also pick up that it's really important to be out there, like show up at events. So how much did that contribute to your success?
Quite a lot, because see, as a very early stage company with a very small team and not a lot of funding, especially when you're trying to build a niche product, which is first of its kind, innovation, technology, and all of it, it's important, like you said, to be seen, and second, for us also to understand the world better. So the more such events we went to, the more we got to see what else is happening in this space, how are people running their companies, how are they bringing the product to market, and things like that. So that is a huge factor in terms of knowledge and information that we get out of it. It's, I mean, a lot more than what we can sit and read online in blogs and on websites. That is also very important, I'm sure, but this is all the in-person experience you get is quite immense. And the second aspect is we've got a lot of money through grants and prizes, a lot of these business plan competitions and things. So that just kept the company afloat through tough times throughout. It's very important for an early stage company to ensure you have some capital to go with, and that has been very important. And the third thing that it leads to is opening doors in multiple places. So we've been very fortunate to have been associated with very top organizations like Infosys Foundation, for example, NASCOM Foundation, Social Alpha. So a lot of these grants we won, we participated in their events, and they've opened doors for us, either getting advisors, investors, customers. It's really good to go through all of these. You stay connected, and you're sort of in everybody's minds as well.
I'm sure you've had a lot of aha moments, but if you have to just talk about one aha moment you have had so far, like the biggest one, which one would that be?
Biggest one or not, I don't know, but I had a really good one which sort of did influence a large part of the product. So we were in UK doing field trials, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, and all our early prototypes were white. They were just plain white. So our thinking, just getting into it, was okay, visually impaired, color wouldn't be too much of a factor for them. So we just had these white prototypes, and we were giving demos and trying to get feedback from users and things like that. And this school where we had a 6-year-old child using the device, and there was a break in the middle, and I was trying to converse with him. Somehow, for some reason, the first question I asked him was, "What is your favorite color?" It should not have been my first question, but it somehow came up in that small talk. And as soon as I asked that question, I was taken aback. I was like, "Oh no, did I just ask a blind child what his favorite color is?" And I was regretting what I asked. And he also paused for a while, sort of making me feel worse. And then he immediately, blurted out chrome silver. And then he went on to list 4 other favorite colors he had. So, I mean, turns out color is also something that's very important to the visually impaired. We cannot take it for granted that it is not, because it's not for us to say. So they have a lot of identity and personal association with different colors, and they would like to be associated with different colors. And some of them do have some residual vision through which they can see some aspects of it. So color is also something important. And if the personal device that we are selling to them, that they're going to use for extended periods of time, they would like it to be of a color that they like as well. So now after that, we started making Annie in multiple colors. You can see on our website as well, it's available in a lot of colors. So we do have a lot of people coming and asking, hey, I would like this color, I would like that color. So yeah, it did influence a lot of the product from that moment onwards.
I see. You have actually had a lot of interesting stories in your journey. So I know that you have been bombarded with a lot of Shark Tank questions, but there are some that I also have. So for example, how did you plan your pitch, like the Shark Tank pitch, and how much time did you actually spend on presenting?
So we said, okay, we'll just stick to our strengths. We have a great story to tell. We have a good company and good fundamentals company. So we'll tell it in the best way possible. And then Seth came up with this idea that we can actually have one of our users also, on stage and demonstrate the product instead of us doing it ourselves. So Prathamesh, who's also on the show with us, he's been a user of Annie since 2019, since we did a deployment in his blind school in Pune. So we reached out to him, and then we were like, okay, he was very interested and excited as well. So we got him on board. So that turned out to be a great move. We weren't really, posturing it that way. We thought it'd be good for the story to be told from the horse's mouth, and that's what we were going for. But it turned out to be really good and in our favor.
That's true. In fact, that is one of the things I very clearly remember from the pitch. So if you were to change one thing from your pitch, is there something that you would like to change or improve on?
No, I think it went pretty well. I don't. All of it went very well. Quite happy with how it went. It was a first time experience for all of us as well. The entire set, being in front of so many cameras, but the entire pitch was obviously a single take, and we had not met the sharks before, right? So it was quite exciting that way. The initially first few minutes we had that thing of, oh, we're going to be on TV, we're in front of the camera. We were conscious of that, but once the conversation started going, we were sort of, that left our minds. Then it was mostly about us telling them about our company and them asking us questions. So we were very engrossed in that conversation. I don't think I would change anything about it. I think it went very well.
Talking about the investors, did you have any investor in mind before you came in, or like what kind of research did you do on the investors before coming to the show?
We've done a fair bit of research on who these people are, what sort of companies they run, how the companies are doing. We looked at what prior investments they had done. Yeah, and typical investor research that you would do before going into any investor pitch is what we had gone with. We didn't try to guess any question areas that they might have, because that's that didn't make sense to us. But I don't think we had any. I think Lenskart was one which we thought was in our space, or rather we are in a similar space. So we were hoping to have Piyush on board, which went as per plan. Apart from that, I think all of them have their own strengths. So we wanted all five of them. But yeah, we're happy we got three of them.
And how does it work after Shark Tank India? Like, how much are the investors involved, and how much do you get to interact with them?
I think that's something that's very specific to the company and the investor. There isn't a set template there, I'm sure. We are quite happy with how involved our investors have been with us and how available and accessible they are to us. And we've gotten a lot of, we had a lot of great conversations with them. We've discussed strategy with them, broader, long-term, wider strategies. They've also facilitated some great conversations for us with other experts in the field, in their network, and they've been a source of great strength for us. It sort of helps us make our plans, company plans, banking on their strength as well. So it's been really good so far.
Makes sense. Also, how did you decide on a counter offer? Because on the show, there was a lot of negotiation that was going on. So, did you have a threshold in mind that this is bare minimum that we want, kind of thing?
We did have a fair estimate of what we think we were valued at. We had our reasons for it as well. We also knew there would be, anybody who's watched Shark Tank from anywhere across the globe knows there will be negotiation, right? So we were also expecting negotiations there. And I don't think we had, but our initial ask was bloated because we said, let's ask something that we really think we're worth, something we can actually defend with respect to, why we think we're worth that much. And our walkaway point, or the last point, was a previous round valuation because we did not want to do a down round. So we said, okay, let's keep it open. If we see value add coming in from the investors, from the sharks there, we can, talk about previous round valuation as a last point. And that's what we did. So I think there's a question towards the end where they were like, why aren't you taking this deal? And we said, it's a down round. We don't want to do a down round. Then they asked us, so what's the previous round valuation? We said 35. And then they were like, okay, let's do that. And then that's when the deal closed. So that was great. It was good to see that there was understanding on both sides. And it was quite positive for us.
Yeah, I could see that everybody was in the end happy with the deal, like all of you guys as well as the investors. So Shark Tank also brings a lot of recognition and validation with it. So how did you make the most out of that? How did it help you?
So a couple of things. One, we weren't doing B2C in India with our devices. We were mostly doing institutional sales and deployments. So we got a lot of B2C requests since the show came out, which has opened up new avenues for us. We have new goals now. We're trying to bring in a B2C model as well, with which we can service all of these requests. The other thing is the way in which a lot of conversations have become smoother for us, because people know about us, and it's easier to start and hold those conversations than it was before, because we're trying to do something that's very new and out of the world. So it's always difficult to explain it in just 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We need to have a 5-minute conversation. And now people who've seen the show, a lot of them have seen the show. They know a lot about us already. So it's a lot more easier to have these conversations. So I mean, our devices, whenever we carry it in the flights, in airports, it gets flagged by security. And every single time we need to explain to them, this is Braille, this is teaching device was visually impaired, and we show them a brochure, we show them some supporting documents and all of it. And off late, when it gets flagged, they open it and they're like, oh, this is the one I saw on TV. And then we're like, yeah. So it's very smooth flowing that way. But even in terms of the sales conversations we're having, people seem to know what Annie does, what value it has. A lot of schools, blind schools, which were on the fence earlier, saying, I'm not very sure about the value add. Now they're calling us and saying, hey, we really want to deploy a smart class here. When is the earliest we can do it? So that way it has helped quite a bit.
Yeah, it brings a lot of credibility. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we have a fun round. I'm going to just two prompts and you have 15 seconds to answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So describe entrepreneurship in one word.
Oh, wow. Entrepreneurship in one word. Can use a phrase, or it has to be a word?
You can use a phrase.
Okay, so 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's not original, it's from Silicon Valley, the show, but I think it's absolutely true.
One advice to budding or prospective entrepreneurs.
Okay, it's not always going to be all hunky-dory and rosy. There will be ups and downs. So resilience is something we all need to have and maintain.
How do you deal with failures?
We have this saying in this company saying, if you fail once, it's just a learning. The second time is when you actually fail, because if you had learned it the first time, then you wouldn't have failed the second time.
What keeps you going?
What keeps me going? Every day is a new challenge. I end up doing things I've not done previous day, every single day.
A book you recommend to every entrepreneur to read?
What we currently trying to streamline our company processes and things like that. There's a book on OKRs, which is very insightful. I think it's a great read. It'll really help put a lot of things in perspective and try and it'll help you think and come up with different ways of running your own company. So that's the one that I most recently had a lot to gain from. So I would recommend that.
Thank you, Dilip, for doing this. It was really interesting and insightful. Thank you to everybody who is watching. Stay tuned for more insights from other entrepreneurs that will be coming in the future episodes.